Welcome back to another episode of the Average Asian Boys podcast. I'm your host today, John, and today I have a special guest here. Please give a welcome for Jeff.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
So, here on the Average Asian Boys podcast, dating and relationships is a popular topic here. And so I wanted to bring our guest on board today because as long as I've known Jeff, he has always been a ladies' man.
Oh boy,
and,
I'm not going to like this introduction, am I?
Well, I want to clarify, like when I say ladies' man, I don't mean like a player or anything, but you've just always been in like very serious, committed relationships ever since I've known you in high school, which I find was like very fascinating, I think, as someone who really sucked with girls in high school and, you know, part of university as well.
Well, John, I mean, I definitely wouldn't say I'm a ladies' man. I can only say that back in high school, I had no idea what I was doing, and possibly girls were easier to impress, a lot easier to impress back then.
Do you think so?
Well, because, I mean, definitely growing up now, it's I mean, there's expectations, right? Society gives you some expectations.
Oh yeah, we don't have to. Yeah, we don't have to be like social media like stars or that kind of shit.
You know, because you have to sort of demonstrate some sort of financial stability. So it looks like you got a future. You know, there's a lot more real substance, I think.
In high school?
No, I'm talking about now. I'm sorry.
now.
I'm talking about now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm saying
yeah.
back then,
Right,
because
right.
there was an absence of any of that. It was
Yeah.
sort of like, ooh, that guy can play the violin really well. Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my way in. Yeah, that was it.
Okay, I see.
That's also why I play violin. So.
See, my parents told me that if I got like good grades in high school, like the girls would notice me.
And did that work out?
No, because I didn't get good grades. So hey, that didn't
Oh,
work
right.
out.
The
And
prerequisite didn't quite.
yeah.
Gotta hit that first.
So that was the end of that story.
Yeah, I mean, back in high school, definitely it was. I mean, gosh, I sometimes I think back on those times. It's sort of I had no idea what I was doing. You know, honestly, in high school, it was mostly just having fun
Yeah.
and
that's all you can
just
do in
trying
high
to
school.
figure
really.
out what you're doing, and then when things don't work out, you like really try to figure it out.
Yeah.
But again, it's just, you know, now thinking back, it just kind of, I see my past self a little silly, a little foolish, doing all sort of crazy things and thinking
Okay.
what I know about relationship. And
Oh,
it's
okay.
definitely changed a lot since then, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember, I don't know, doing some weird shit to try to get the attention of the girls.
Oh, I think we actually went after the same girl one time. I think it was in grade 8.
Oh, that one. Yeah. I remember. Oh,
I
yeah.
think we actually just met. Yeah. It wasn't
Oh,
too-
you know what? I remember now, I think.
Yeah.
Like
Because
we were so what happened was we were in a bathroom together at the same time taking a leak.
More context, John, please.
No, it's like we're standing side by side at the urinal taking a
In a
leak.
respectable distance.
Yeah, social distancing, right?
Yeah. Thighs touching, obviously.
Yeah, but not crossing swords, so it's all
Not,
good.
not quite, but
Yeah.
splash zone definitely.
Yeah. So what are we talking about? Right, yeah. So we were just talking about like how we both like
Yeah,
the same
yeah,
girl.
Yeah.
And then I think we kind of made a like a pact.
We did.
To be
Oh
like,
my
hey,
goodness,
look,
we-
if like, you know, if
Yeah. I think
something, if you know, something happens
Yeah,
with
we
this
were
girl,
like, you were just
we're
gonna-
still gonna be friends,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was a very noble pact. Yes.
You know, I've forgotten about this until just now, actually. But
I mean,
I'm like,
literally-
wow, what a wholesome moment, you know?
Literally, when you mentioned about relationship in high school back then, that was sort of like, oh yeah, I remember now, because that was that was like sort of pretty early on in high school, I think. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember like I remember when we were having a phone call and you were just trying to get me to admit that I like this girl,
Oh my
I think.
gosh, yeah.
Because like I guess you just wanted confirmation, right?
Yeah, I think
And
it was
then
just
I
a lot
was
of pranking back then.
You were just pranking me?
Of course, you just
What?
gotta. You just gotta.
What the? Oh my gosh.
Oh shit.
Because I just
decades
remember,
later revealed.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, no, exposed. Because I just remember like I was so nervous about having feelings for this person. Like I couldn't even like say it out. I don't even know why. It's like it's just perfectly a normal thing to have, but I don't know. Like I was just so nervous about it. I remember like it was really hard for me to just admit to you that I like so said girl.
Yeah, I mean that's back then, considering sort of like we just entered high school, totally new environment. I think that is a lot of sort of personal reveal that you had to feel comfortable enough to share. Right?
I guess so. Yes, I was
It's-
being vulnerable for
Yeah.
the first time.
I mean, I
guess.
would say the same. Like honestly, before high school, there was just definitely very little inkling of sort of like that kind of romantic feeling, or even that kind of feeling, I guess.
Yeah.
Before you really reach that sort of teenager years of high school, when I guess you go through some sort of trial by fire of how these things work out.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
But yeah, but think we never had any conflict over that girl, and we were perfectly good friends, and then everybody.
Yeah, I think I think the way it worked out was just like nobody ended up getting the girl, which was probably the best
the
case
best. I think
scenario.
so, yes.
It was a
Yeah.
lose-lose scenario, but it probably worked out for the best.
Yeah, probably a win-win for the girl though.
Yeah.
Dodged double bullets that day.
Good call. A good call on her part. Good call on her part.
We were saving her some future headache. That's all.
Yeah, for sure. But did your parents have like any like opinion on dating in high school? Because like my parents like discouraged me from dating because they wanted me to focus on school and all that stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, girls will be a distraction to you.
Oh yeah, I mean definitely coming from sort of a Asian background, I think there was a certain extent for sure. My parents wanted me to focus on like the academics. I was doing, of course, we were both in music, and
Yes.
there was definitely a lot of time commitment for that. You got to practice, go to classes, so
Yeah.
that was like a whole thing. So like all of that came first, above all else. But it's sort of I don't know. I guess I got the same instruction from my parents, but I just chose to ignore most of them anyway.
Oh yeah, smart call there.
I mean, you can't ignore feelings, John. That's what you feel in the heart.
It's true. You really can.
That's why I gotta not the time. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I guess my
you gotta
parents,
listen to your penis, is what you're saying.
well, has diverse needs now. No,
Yeah.
yeah. So no, I would say like my parents definitely had those sort of concerns, like they don't want me to get distracted, right, by girls, by I guess having an expanded social life in that sense. But
Yeah. Oh no. What is he gonna get up to now?
I guess I don't want to. I definitely don't mean this in a bad way, but I feel like because my parents were relatively less strict with me, that in a way, as I was growing up in those sort of tumultuous teenage years, it was easier for me to almost sort of circumvent their authority a little bit.
Okay.
I'm sorry, mom, dad, but basically, yeah. So it was just a little bit easier for me to get away with things, I should say.
Okay.
And,
Maybe it's because you're also an
That's
only
also true.
kid as
That's
well.
right.
Because like with me, right, I have a younger brother, so I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
well, if we fuck up this kid, we still got another one.
but they were pretty strict with you, though.
They were very strict.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Do you remember when was like the first girl that you dated in high school?
The first girl that I dated in high school.
Yeah, or like just had like a semi relationship kind of thing. In high school, like these things are like kind of hard to like
Oh, man.
define
Yeah,
and all that stuff.
definitely I do remember. Although it's sort of, yeah. I mean, now that you mentioned it, I guess if I were to have to describe, like something that I knew maybe more for sure, more concrete, probably just my senior year.
Yeah.
Last year in high school, I think probably.
Okay.
But honestly, I would say it wasn't until when I went off to college, when university, I think I would actually consider those relationships to be more sort of like I had a better sense of what I should be doing and shouldn't be doing, just learning from high school experiences and just getting a bit more mature, get some sense in me, a
Okay.
little bit. So I think, yeah, I would actually kind of consider my university years sort of the beginning of what I was trying to really understand what it means to be a relationship, how I should be conducting myself, how to respect the other person, how to listen.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that, yeah,
You
see
ma-
university more.
You mentioned in high school, like you were always just kind of figuring it out, trial by fire
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So what were like some of the experiences that you had in high school that kind of really set you up to be a better boyfriend in college and going forward?
Yeah, no, I gotta say I didn't handle any of the relationship very well. I think it was sort of I was trying to find the right person, trying to figure out what type of people I would click with, what I would get along with.
Okay.
And I think along the way it was sort of like it was your first time having sort of an emotional drive into your decision making as well. Like I guess when you were young, some of the emotional drive would be more basic, more instinctive, but now you sort of have this like love feeling into some of that decision, and it's sort of like interesting to think about how I was trying to balance that, and obviously making many mistakes along the way, many regrets, obviously.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say I wasn't proud of the way I was ending any other relationships.
Oh,
back in high
I
school.
see. I see. Then
And
no,
I
no,
think through
no,
through
no,
that,
no friendly breakups or anything.
well, no, I should say I was for the most part friendly in the sense that oh gosh, I mean maybe I thought they were friendly, but honestly I shouldn't claim that. I think we really need both maybe that female perspective there to confirm. Honestly, I thought they were for the most part friendly, but
Yeah, I
mean, there were
thought it
definitely-
ended well.
there were definitely some where
I thought we were still on good terms afterwards.
there were some that's definitely less so. That's less than good, but
Right.
yeah, all I can say is I'm still glad I had gone through those experiences. At least speaking for myself, I don't know about the on the receiving end of that from the girl's perspective, but I definitely was many lessons learned, and yeah, I consider all of those very like contributing to kind of how I am today in my relationship.
Yeah. I also, one thing I also remember from high school is, like, I noticed that you started dating Korean girls.
Yeah.
And that was interesting to me because, in my young, I don't know, unknowledgeable self, I've always thought that Korean girls only liked dating other Korean guys. So, to me, it was like, oh wow, this guy's like really breaking the. He's a trailblazer, It was
Wait,
like
you thought
he's-
that way since high school?
not like in high school I did feel that way. I mean, obviously not
Okay,
now,
yeah.
but it was just like in high school because I didn't know anything and I was just very, uninformed. I was like, oh, Korean girls only like Korean guys. So I'm like, wow, like, my friend Jeff is
I mean,
like,
you wouldn't be
dating-
wrong for the most part. I
Do you think so?
would still agree. Yeah.
Do you think it's still that way right now?
Yes, and I would also just want to add on that it's not necessarily like a personal preference per se, but I think
Yeah.
from my understanding, it's sort of a cultural preference, especially from the older generation side.
Yeah.
I think family is very much involved in Asian culture in general, but
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
particularly so in Korean culture, which on the spectrum, I guess you could say is relatively a bit more conservative, right?
Yeah.
More traditional. So at least from my experience and what I've heard, I think generally, both family prefer sort of.
It's
the
just
children-
easier for the families to
Yes,
get
yeah,
along, I guess,
exactly.
if they are from the same
Yeah,
cultural
yeah.
background and
There's
they
a lot
speak
of
the
deep
same
history
language.
and cultural aspect in Korea. So I think it's sort of just easier for everybody when both family kind of understand each other in that sense on the most like basic level.
Yeah.
Just easier to work from, and from a language perspective too, I suppose.
Okay.
There was one girl I do remember dating that she actually brought me home one time to meet her mom.
Oh.
And I
interesting.
thought that was, I mean that at that time, I mean I was in high school. I didn't know anything, and it was I was a little surprised definitely at first because I thought, wow, this is actually like I thought this was like a much later.
I'd be
later step or
terrified,
something
but
like-
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
It was like walking into like a lion's den or something.
Mhm.
It was yeah, imagine that just like being a high school kid too. But apparently, actually, as I learned much later on through more I guess mature quote unquote relationships, and of course right now with my wife, it's actually a fairly common and expected sort of a step to go through. Like sort of
Oh, really?
greeting the parents, having sort of a parental approval was sort of definitely important to many families in Korea.
Well, the parental approval I can understand.
Yeah,
But I guess in high school, right? It's just, I guess they wouldn't take it like that seriously.
Yeah, no, not that seriously, but it was definitely sort of meant to be symbolic in some sense. Sort of like this would be like a pretty official step that you want to take, but then also a very expected step of that relationship, and you definitely have to like kind of follow through certain procedures. So yeah, I guess back then I really had no idea, but in hindsight, sort of like okay, that kind of makes sense. Understanding her Korean background, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's expected a little bit.
Okay. And I just want to this should be obvious, but
Yeah.
obviously we do not speak on behalf of like all Koreans. This
Absolutely.
is just our personal experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just, disclaimer, fellas.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely don't speak on behalf of all Koreans or even all anyone.
I mean,
who-
yeah, well, I mean, we're not even Korean, so
No,
yeah,
absolutely
that should
not. It's only from my own experience, and of course, my wife is Korean, so I should caveat that. And she has also warned me that if I need to, if I'm going across some controversial ground, I need to phone it in to her to make sure that she okays it.
she okays it? Okay, good.
so
Yeah.
We might have to call in a couple.
Yeah, we have our media relationship expert online, just in case. Okay. I always remember one thing that you always told me about like this Korean girl that you dated in high school was that she like apparently gave you like a test of some sort. Like, and the test goes like, if your parents were out in the sea at the same time as you and your girlfriend, and your parents were drowning and your girlfriend was also drowning, who do you save first? Do you remember that?
I think I do, and yeah, it's I don't even remember what my answer was.
I don't
think there's a right answer
I don't
to
even.
this,
Yeah,
man.
I'm like, how do you even answer that?
There's no way out that could possibly end well for
It's
me.
it's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, I feel like at that point I wouldn't have dragged everyone to the river in the first place. I would
Yeah.
just say, hey, let's not go to the river.
Yeah, you know who
Let's
made
not
a
step in the river.
you know who made a bad decision? The guy who decided to go to the river.
Yeah, I didn't want to go to the river. Let's just go home. It's
Yeah.
fine. No, I remember that.
I was
I
like,
mean,
wow, that's pretty intense. I just wanted to know if you ever like answered that question and if there was like a magical correct answer.
No, I definitely did offer an answer of some sort, and I also remember
Yeah.
that answer being unsatisfactory to her.
Of course.
So, I would not be the best source for that correct answer, John.
Okay.
But
Because it's just like ever since I heard that question, I've been trying to figure out what the right answer
John,
is.
I would say by the time you get asked that question and you're in that position, you have already lost. There's no way out. You're already in the hole, man.
Yeah.
That's
already a loss.
she's already
cause.
punishing you for something.
Yeah.
So
She's already mad at something that
yeah,
you did.
she's not expecting a right answer there. And actually, if you gave her probably a good answer, she'll probably hate you even more.
Yeah.
That you've somehow like, got out of her trap.
Yeah. That's why I'm trying to find out that answer.
Yeah.
And one day I might need to get out of that
Goodness.
exact same
Yeah,
trap.
You're reminding me a lot of my high school relationship that I've forgotten about for many years.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I do remember that line of questioning.
Yeah. I just bring up like the memories that I have that stand out. But yeah. So for me, on my side, like I wouldn't say I was ever in a relationship in high school. Like there were definitely a couple girls I was interested in for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think anything like serious ever happened with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most that happened was like, I held hands with some girls,
Yep.
which is really nice. But yeah, so I would say for me, like I didn't really have the experience, the joy of like going out and making mistakes and, just being an idiot with
I mean,
someone
honestly,
else.
like relationships in high school is very much going to the mall, grabbing some bubble tea, and maybe watching a movie. I guess by the time you get to senior year and actually get a car, I think once we were able to get our license, get a bit more mobile. Well, I guess
the car
it didn't
helps a lot.
happen. Yeah, it's if you did have access to a car and have a license, it was just a lot easier to get around, and suddenly your relationship like capacity and potential just expanded exponentially, right?
Your world grows bigger.
Yeah, so I would say back then it just up until the senior years when I also kind of feel like it's really the relationship when maybe I know a bit more about what I should be doing. But even then I would say it's sort of very much just trying to grasp my way through it.
Yeah.
It's,
I mean, for me, I couldn't get out of my house like without my parents' like approval, so that was a little hard too.
yeah, that makes dating very, very difficult.
Yeah. When you can only see them at school, it just doesn't really work.
But like I guess what I'm trying to say is for me it was the same, like holding hands, and that's pretty much the extent of it. Honestly, that's why I feel like it's so innocent. Like high school relationship, at least for on my part, like, there was definitely some like a level of innocence to it. You sort of like.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
we didn't really know what we were doing, just like
Yeah.
trying to feel things out. But although I'm sure for other people, their high school relationship may be a bit more,
Different.
I guess, mature. Or different.
Mature would be the word. Yeah. But you didn't make out with anyone in high school or anything?
Oh yeah, I guess I did. Yeah, in
Yeah,
senior
yeah.
year. Yeah.
That counts.
Okay. Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First base.
That's
Is that first base.
That's a important.
That's the
skill.
base.
That's a
In
is it-
baseball.
I think so.
I don't know. It should be somewhere in baseball.
I think. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. You gotta kiss the umpire before you you get the home run or something. But I mean that's a pretty useful skill, I think, to learn.
Yes.
You don't want to suck at it. Right?
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
But yeah, I would say even. I mean, I don't know. I didn't have that much experience though. Not as many as you would have thought, John. Actually, I hate to have broken your your past reputation on me, but for me it was still mostly quite keep it pretty PG.
Yeah.
13.
Yeah,
I guess.
no, that's cool. Yeah, that's what high school is all about, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay, so after high school, you went to Montreal, I think,
Yep.
for university.
Yep.
And then did you end up dating anyone like in your university years?
I did. I did. So, like I was saying before, I really feel like it was actually at McGill where I went for university. That's sort of when I felt like the relationships had more substance.
Yeah.
Just because it seemed to, I guess, matter more. There were more at stake. There were more things at stake, and I did find myself a bit
People's
more
feelings
invested.
were at stake.
Yeah, and then it's sort of like the first time maybe you gained a little bit of sort of financial freedom, and I didn't, I studied away from home, right?
Yeah,
So
you're
I
living
was,
away from home as
yeah,
well.
yeah. So that immediately sort of broadened my horizon again, pretty much exponentially as well. Probably a bit too much so in first semester, but it's okay. Didn't get kicked out, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I did, and it's kind of surprisingly, all my relationships during university were all long distance. Actually,
Well, that sucks.
that was actually something I regretted, probably the most. Not sure why I did it, but I did do that.
You regret like going for the long distance relationship?
Yes, for like four freaking years.
How did you end up in long distance relationships if you were like where did you meet these?
In Vancouver.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, that makes a
Because
lot of sense.
I'll come back during
Oh,
holidays, vacation.
okay,
times,
yeah, because
yeah.
I just assumed that you met these girls in McGill, and then so I'm like, how did you?
I mean, don't get me wrong.
How
I
did
meet
I-
people at McGill too. It's
Yeah,
just-
for sure.
I don't know why. It just
But
happens that
you always it was just always like Vancouver, you're back for the summer.
Exactly.
And you always
Actually,
just
it
end up
was the
meeting
summertime.
someone
Yep.
and you're just like, God damn it, not
it's
again.
those summer times, man. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There were, I guess, at least three relationships. I think, all long distance.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
not probably. Yeah. In hindsight, really kind of regretted that because I think actually that defined and impacted a lot of my experience as well.
Oh, really?
There.
And how so, if I may ask?
I mean, just in the sense that you were still relatively young, I would say, and you definitely don't have that sort of financial freedom to be making a lot of the calls that you felt like you were sort of
You couldn't
the
afford
place
the
to
you
do-
couldn't afford the round trip flights back to
exactly.
Vancouver
And even
every
if you
week.
did, it's sort of like you're just really blowing off your parents' money, right? So like, there's
Yeah.
definitely like a nagging guilt there about doing
Okay.
something shitty.
No,
like
no,
that.
no. You just give me, hey, no, mom and dad, I'm just coming back to see you. It's okay.
I mean, I've actually done that once, and I'm not proud of it. Yeah, I snuck back once.
Yeah.
And actually, my parents knew the whole time. Apparently, I found that out later, but they knew.
Yeah.
And they were very upset.
Nice.
There was a whole period of time.
They were not
like-
impressed.
No, my parents were like really upset with me for a period of time. Did not
Okay.
speak to me for a while.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't either. Honestly, now that I am like 31 and actually like matured and understand responsibilities.
and you understand how much those plane tickets cost.
Yeah, and how hard it takes to earn those money. Holy
Yeah,
shit,
yeah.
Jesus.
You're like, that son of a bitch.
Yeah, wasting money. God damn it.
God damn it.
Stupid past young Jeff. Anyway, what was I saying? That yeah, right. So long distance relationship. It was sort of like it shouldn't have been as important as it ended up being. I guess that should
Oh,
be
well,
the
I mean,
best way I define it. 'cause
Yeah.
Because
that's something that you
it's-
have that you would see in hindsight, right?
Yeah.
When you're in a moment, you're just like,
And-
no, we can make this work.
Of course.
Long distance, no problem. Let's do it.
And
Let's
like
go.
for anyone who is actually like in university right now, or even better, studying abroad and in a foreign place, like honestly, you should be enjoying your life there, like locally, and try to get the best of it, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
really just like take advantage of your new friends, your new social circle. But like having a long distance, again though, I'm not advocating for not having a long distance.
I thought you were.
relationship,
I
actually.
thought that's exactly what you were gonna say. You're like, for those
Personally,
guys, just don't do.
I really would not. I mean, I've still gone through some long distance relationship. Even with my wife, we had to do a little bit of that during
Yeah.
COVID-19.
yeah.
But like honestly, it was more about, my point is just really try to take advantage of like the now in that new environment. Whereas before, for me, I think it's like one piece of my mind is always back home.
Because you're thinking about that girl back
Yeah,
home.
and then like there's a bit of time difference, right? So like,
Oh, yeah,
there's
that's right,
expectations
yeah.
for relationship. You have to nurture it. You can't just leave it there. And I think for the most part, I think at least I tried.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely still effed it up a lot of times,
Okay.
but I feel like at least I tried, even if it may not be the best results, good intentions. Nonetheless, it was just a lot of texting a lot of doing Skype calls, doing a lot of calls, and when you do those things, you sort of you can't really enjoy the present with the social friends.
Yeah.
Someone wants you to go out to have a fun, to have a drink, but you're like, oh, I actually gotta have a call with my girlfriend, and then it's not like you didn't want to have that call. It's just more like you had to make a decision, and that trade-off, unfortunately, in hindsight, I wish, because again, in hindsight, the relationship shouldn't have mattered as much as it did.
Yeah.
I just wish I had broadened my more experience back then, especially university. It's just such a good opportunity to do so.
Yeah, you wish you had been like more kind of present in the moment and been able to enjoy the opportunities that was around
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. Or just like date a local girl or something.
Yeah.
I think the long distance responsibility really does eat away at some of that. It adds pressure, right? It adds pressure on both parties.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of trust that needs to be had, and on very little foundation sometimes that you build upon before you get into a long distance.
Yeah, I guess that's true. When you're like someone is like really far away, you have to have that trust that
Yep.
he is just
Yeah.
I don't know, keep his hands to himself, as they say.
Yeah, but that also meant that you had to go through some really crazy, like stupid stuff. Like, there was one time. Oh my gosh, I can share this story. I think. Can I share this story? I think I can share the story.
We'll find out after we check with your wife.
Well, no, this is not to do with my wife.
Yeah,
this is actually
I know,
more to
I
do
know.
with I guess in my second or third year, I guess, a relationship where sort of I'm not exactly sure how we led up to that point, but I was sort of required to call the girl before I went to sleep, and then keep my phone on the entire time at night. I'm not sure why I couldn't hang up, but I was just told I cannot hang up, and she'll get upset if I hang up. I guess she wants to hear my voice as I wake up in the morning. I'm not sure. It may have sounded romantic at the time, but now it just sounds creepy, I suppose. So she wanted me to call her right before I sleep, stay on the
Okay.
line all the way till the morning.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a lot of minutes.
it is. Yes. Well, I mean, back then they had those like kind of plans where if you add your 5 friends number or whatever shit, right? and
Yeah,
you get
yeah,
some
yeah,
free-
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was like that. So, okay, I was like, it's a bit strange.
Tell us, is like monitoring your call. You're like, who is this maniac that is like on the line for like the 8 hours or
exactly.
whatever?
And then like, excuse me, that's something that she should have wanted me to do. And I guess,
Wow,
okay,
that's weird.
see, since it wasn't like costing me a lot of money because it was some sort of special program, okay,
Yeah,
fine, I'll just
yeah.
leave it in the charger, I'll leave it on overnight.
Yeah.
That's not even like the weird part. I was like, okay, fine, that's okay.
See, if
maybe
that happened nowadays, she would have wanted you to live stream.
Yeah, exactly, live stream
while
that
you're
shit all the
asleep.
time.
The sleep live stream, you know.
I think one of our relationships, the girl did want to Skype the whole time.
Yeah.
So- but anyway, the weird part was, I woke up one day, right, and then suddenly the line was already cut, and I was like, okay, that's weird. Usually I would have to hang up the phone, right?
Yes.
And then I just started texting, and something seemed wrong. Something seemed like I did something wrong, and then apparently I did.
What, you snored or something?
Apparently I said like my ex-girlfriend's name in my sleep when I
Oh.
was dreaming or something.
That's crazy.
I don't even know
Yeah.
what I dreamt.
Yeah, yeah.
What the?
You know what that's like? That's like when like a girl or your significant other has a dream about you doing something wrong, and then you wake up and she's mad at you.
Yeah, but it's like,
and
it's
you're
a
like,
dream.
what did I even do? Yeah, what happened?
Oh my gosh, she was
What's
so
happened in your
upset.
dream?
She was so upset, and the thing is, like, this girl it is an ex-girlfriend, yeah, but she and I have
Well-
also been friends for like already many years. It was like water under the bridge, multiple years in the past, kind of a thing.
You mean the girl that you mentioned
In my
while you were
dream.
in your
That-
dream?
That yes,
Okay.
that I again still allegedly mentioned. because
Allegedly.
nobody can prove that shit.
That's
and
right. Nobody has the
We
record.
had not recorded. Nobody was.
Well, I
recording
think that's what's
conversations back
crazy
then,
to me
so-
is she's listening to you this whole time.
Yes,
Wow,
that's
like
even more weird, right?
that's what really has me kind of puzzled here.
Yeah, so that's sort of I guess that's what I was referring to when that meant like I sort of regret putting that level of energy and effort, and also maybe not recognizing a red flag when there is a red flag.
Yeah,
That, like,
okay.
you can see how
Yeah.
this would start impact like my experience at like
Yeah.
a new city, at a new school. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was that definitely was a lot of effort, I would say, to make that work.
I mean, long distance relationship is also good. I don't want to imply that it's not it's just all bad, right? You're also learning
Yeah.
a lot about trust. You
Nah,
learn how to get over
never,
insecurities.
never gonna do it. Never doing
I
it.
mean, yes, I agree. It's definitely not for some people, and some people are dead
can't- I
against
can't.
it, which is totally fair. Totally fair. Having gone through it multiple
Yeah.
times myself, I would say I definitely would not ever want to do it. If I can help it, I would not.
Yeah, I'm like, for me, I'm like, look, if I can't hold hands with you, I'm not.
Yeah,
like, we're
I mean,
not-
look,
this is not happening.
it took COVID, right, to have my wife and I do a long distance. Otherwise, I would not. Like, if this happened, and then I'll just like move or something, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I would not want. Yeah, no way.
Mhm.
It's just too much.
So how do you think like this experiences impacted you like further down the road with you having to done these long distance relationships and kind of not having them work out very well?
Oh, definitely sort of a very wary and cautious when it came to long distance relationship.
Okay, so like let's not do that again.
Yeah, it was sort of a
That's a good start. Okay.
instinctive reaction to it. Now it's like it
Yeah.
didn't really matter. I think that was sort of honestly the way that my wife and I met. We also had a brief period of long distance for about half a year to a year. Actually, I think it's about a year. No, I'm sorry, it was a full. It's not a full year. I guess 2 semesters, 8 months. Of long distance, but it wasn't like long distance in the sense that we're in different time zones.
Yeah.
We were about like 4 hours apart by bus, 3 to 4 hours by bus.
Okay, so like just different cities.
Yeah, different cities
In the States.
in different state.
Yes.
Different state in the states, in the United States.
Yes. Okay. Not confused at all.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped ahead in that chronology. Sorry.
Mhm. Okay. So no more long distances after that.
Yeah, no, not since McGill. I just really yes, yeah, not since McGill. I think I've had met someone back in Vancouver and had to start a long distance with, because after McGill I sort of spent a year back at home for a little bit, but afterwards I actually went out to New York City where I did my master's and where I settled down for a little bit. So that afterwards, sort of, I guess I've been meeting girls locally, learn my lesson.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's good. Did you feel like when you started like meeting girls more locally, did you feel like I was gonna say like, did you feel like there was a difference with the people that you were meeting in the different cities? And then I realized like, obviously there is going to be a difference. So now, I don't know. That question just sounded really stupid in my head now that I think about it.
I could definitely speak to you about how just the fact that you can see that grow more than a couple weeks a year, a few weeks a year, that makes a huge difference. Because
Yeah,
like
that sounds
actually
exciting.
me coming, graduating from McGill, again, all my relationships were long distance, right? So
Yeah.
that meant basically I saw the girl only during break times. I would say a total of like, I guess 5 months to 6 months a year.
Mhm.
So there's definitely like a long period apart. But I have dated some girls in New York City when I was going to school there,
Yeah.
and that just being able to be in the same city with that girl really again also opened another sort of realm of dating for me. Because before you sort of had to cram a lot of stuff in, you had to plan things ahead of time because your time is limited with that girl,
Yeah.
and you want to make the best of it. And you start to you gotta juggle some things, balance things out. But then when it came to dating a girl locally, I guess I should say it's not that you don't have other things to balance, because I guess you kind of balance, maybe you have a job, you're going to school there, you got other responsibilities. So it's always a balance and a juggle and a struggle. But I would say definitely for the biggest difference, conflict resolution. So much easier when you can show up in person and apologize your ass off for doing something stupid than if
Oh,
you
I
do
thought you were
something
gonna say
stupid.
like have a fight, like have a boxing match or something. But
No, it's so much easier for you to apologize and show your sincerity in person than like try so hard
Yeah.
over online.
I'm so sorry. I will not kill your cat again.
Is that from The Office? Or
yeah, it is.
something? Dwight.
I will not throw sprinkles into the freezer again.
Dating, having that so many long distance relationships in Montreal definitely sort of pushed me to really just look at my immediate environment, like where I was at the time. I was
Yeah.
in New York City. I really want to experience that life. I want to be invested and be immersed in that.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of times, honestly, it wasn't like by choice, right? It wasn't like in McGill, I was like, I'm only going to date girls in Vancouver. And I really love doing this long distance stuff.
Yeah, I'm committed.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't love keeping their phone on overnight 24/7?
Like you said, you'd go back to Vancouver for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And then so I don't know if it's like you probably weren't actively looking to meet someone when you were back in Vancouver, but it just kind of happened.
Yeah. No,
And then
this is-
so
yeah.
so I was just wondering, like, how did you find yourself in this scenario where you did end up meeting girls, like in your short time back in Vancouver?
Yeah, it was never intentional. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think I would say ever since the first long distance relationship, it wasn't exactly like I was keen on repeating that, because the first one absolutely didn't end very well.
Okay.
And it in the way it started, I honestly think it's all very different. Some of them share similarities, like through friends of a friend, right?
Okay. So it was
and
a
then
good one.
I would say actually for the most part they were all through friends of a friend. It's sort of like I shouldn't say that. One of them I met at work, I guess. So there's like different circumstances, I guess, and I think it was difficult to plan ahead of time. I mean, I don't think anyone can really plan these things ahead of time. I think it's just
It's true. It's just
it
like one
clicked and
day
it clicked and it
that girl
happened.
like walks into your life, and it just clicks.
Yeah, I maybe I was following more of my heart than my mind at the time, because I feel like if I was the other way, probably would avoid, recognizing that obviously investing in someone in Vancouver, and then I was still going to school in Montreal.
Yeah, it's like I
Long
think
distance
this
again.
might be a long distance relationship.
But I don't know why back then I never let that stop me. I would sort of like follow the instinct, follow the heart, and like
Yeah.
just go for it.
Well, that's what we do when you're young and stupid. You
Yeah.
just listen to your heart
Yep. Yep.
and your penis.
Maybe a bit too much, so yeah.
Yeah.
Got me in trouble before.
You know, I hear you. I hear you. What about when you were in New York then? Like, how did you meet? How did you meet your significant others?
Well, in New York, again, very, kind of like anyone entering a new environment, a new city, a new country, new university. It's really, I think, having that first group of friendship circle, that social circle, really helps to define that experience so early on. I met a really cool group of people, quite luckily. I took a job working for the school because I wanted to just earn some back of my tuition money. And actually through that job, I met some really cool people, because I was working essentially as a like a printer person in it's a printing room. So in architecture school, the students had to print a lot of stuff. So you
Okay.
need big plotting machines,
Yeah.
you got rooms full of printers.
Oh,
It's basically
okay.
a computer lab, and you have a printing room that goes with it. And usually someone is staffing those areas. So I was just working as a student helper, working in a printing shop. So actually through that, I met a lot of students, a lot of architecture students, and my own program was under that faculty too. So it was sort of just convenient that way. And through work, I met a lot of cool people. And through that circle, I sort of slowly expanded. It was like literally, I remember getting invited to a house party, like the first week of school.
Oh,
and
nice.
from that party, it was like you just met all these people. I still
Wow.
remember we played like King's Cup or something.
Yeah.
The classic. And everybody obviously got pretty drunk, and I was pretty sure I was fairly drunk. But luckily, the contacts I remembered and somehow stored in phone or Facebook at the time, it was still quite popular
Yeah.
as a social sort of media tool. So it was, very much through these sort of friendship circles that slowly, very organically evolved. And actually, one of my friends, I think he literally probably knows everyone at Pratt Institute.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
It was like,
well,
once I knew that guy, and he's like a super, super sweet, super nice guy,
yeah.
then it's almost like I knew everybody. And through that, it was kind of fortunate that way as well.
Okay, wow. Sounds like you're a real man of the people.
It's just, I think, you kind of have to push yourself a little bit too in those new environments. I have my days. I think everybody does. You feel you want to have some time to yourself, right? You want to just maybe not talk to many people.
Yeah.
But it's like I knew I had to really push myself, get myself out there.
You gotta go work that printing room.
Yeah, I worked
and
that
go,
print room, man.
Yeah. Show people who's the printer.
Flash
who's the
flash
printer
that
man.
smile,
Yeah,
do a
yeah.
bit wink there.
Give people that good
Hot off the
customer
press,
service.
Yeah,
yeah.
package it all nicely, bundle it up. Yeah, you got it, man.
Yeah.
Full service.
Mess up the lamination requests.
Oh, we don't do lamination, sorry.
Oh, okay,
No, that's
good.
outside of our scopes of service.
All right. Okay, and then so like you just ended up meeting like a bunch of people from working in the printing room, and then getting invited to like social circles.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's sort of probably very similar to how many people meet, just friends and significant others as well.
Yeah.
I think in that sort of
I guess I would
university
just I
setting,
guess I would just start with that one contact. I
yeah,
suppose.
Yeah. I think especially in the university context, I think that's sort of the beauty of it, right? You have a concentration of like-minded peers who all are really, I mean, in different disciplines, but it's sort of like you're all there with a common objective too, because you want to.
To get drunk
Yeah,
every
of
weekend.
course. What else? Why are you going to school
Yeah.
otherwise? I mean, you're wasting money then. If you're not getting kicked out, you're doing it wrong. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. Everybody's staying in school.
I wanted to finish this podcast by asking you how you met your wife.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that you were never going to do a long distance relationship again.
Yep.
And then so like what was different about this? Like what was special and how did that work out?
Yeah, so I guess I can provide a bit more detail because she's my wife. We met in Copenhagen in Denmark. We were both on a
Oh.
studio exchange trip,
Yes.
and it was at the Danish Institute of International Studies. She was in a different program. She was doing interior design. I was doing urban design.
So she was studying at a different school, right?
Different school.
And then you just
exactly.
happened to meet
That's right.
like at the same time at the same place.
Correct. Yeah. So I was studying at Pratt Institute, and through that school, through my school, there was like a summer studio exchange program, and DIS. That was an acronym for the Danish Institute of Studies.
Yeah.
They specialize in basically sponsoring or facilitating exchange between American universities and that school in specifically.
Yeah.
So my wife, she was going to the Rhode Island School of Design, RISD, and their program is quite unique. So before they start their program, they actually require their students to attend this summer workshop, the summer studio, sorry,
Oh.
as a prerequisite even before starting a semester. So she was there for that. I was there through Pratt, and so I really do got a shout out to my friend Christine, I guess. So she was the one that sort of actually was able to the connecting link between us in a way. Christine was the only other girl from my program that also went with me to this study abroad from my program back in New York. So she was my classmate. Sorry.
She's your classmate?
Yeah.
And you said she was the only girl in this?
Only other classmate from my program in New York that
Oh.
came with me on the study abroad.
Oh, is this two people?
Yep.
Oh, I thought it would be like more than that, but
Yeah, typically there would be, but to save you some long story, there was a lot of political infighting at the program at the time. I
Okay.
went through some stuff that was not great on my
okay,
from
so
my
you
experience.
so you barely made it there
Yeah,
by the
let's
seat
just
of your
say
pants.
yeah.
All right.
Usually it's
all
a school sponsored thing. Let's just put it that way. And then I had to
Yeah.
go sort of break free and go solo that year.
all right. We won't talk about
Yeah,
that.
but essentially, so Christine was my classmate.
Yes.
She was the only classmate from my New York program that came
Yeah.
with me.
Okay.
And so she happened to also be in the same student dormitory as Chloe.
Ah.
Yes, and so of course, like Christine and I were the only people from my program. We met up, and it was actually through her bringing the friend Chloe that I was able to meet my current wife.
Yeah.
I
Your
think
current wife being Chloe.
being Chloe.
Just
yes.
wanted to clarify
No.
for the podcast. We're throwing names out there. I don't
Yeah,
want to
I'm
confuse
sorry.
the
Yes,
audience.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's by all measures, like looking back, it was also a relatively short time to establish like a strong foundation for that long distance relationship because
Yeah,
it's a
how-
summer studio.
Right. How long are you there for? Like, how long is the
A
program?
total of like 6 weeks.
Oh, that's short.
I think so, unless I remember correctly.
I
No,
thought it'd be
no,
like
6
two.
weeks?
I thought it would be like 2 months or something.
It was close to 2 months, like 6-7 weeks, something like that. And then we got probably like so like that development of the relationship also didn't have a lot of time to mature and foster either.
Yeah.
But I think, and then definitely we had a conversation actually specifically about this too. Both of us are quite sort of understanding that we're going to go back to different schools in different states. It's not like impossible that distance, but it is going to be still a long distance, right? And we want to be sure of that commitment. I was so she was actually the one that was very sort of upfront and direct. We were sitting on like this bench near the parking lot of my Airbnb, and she was like, "So like, do you want to be my boyfriend?" Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, very very direct. And I think also now in hindsight, figuring back out, it's also not uncommon in Korean relationships to sort of have a very defined like, are you or not? Are we dating or not? Not just like seeing each other.
Okay.
Not like gray line shit.
Okay, but this was like after you guys had been like hanging out
Yes,
and
yes,
stuff,
of
right?
course. So,
it wasn't
you know-
just like you two like met and
No,
like you like
absolutely,
look.
absolutely.
He's like, so do you want to be my
No, we definitely
boyfriend?
been like fostering a relationship. We've
Yeah,
been
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
hanging out, going on dates.
Okay,
and things
but-
like that.
yeah, okay,
It was
but,
sort of
like-
that moment, it was like sort of,
Yeah.
are we going to go the long road, right? Are we
Yeah.
going to commit to this because the program is ending and we're all going back to our respective home
I
universities.
see.
And I think
So did that question throw you off guard?
it did, but at the same time, it was sort of it immediately answered a lot of my uncertainties, any sort of unknowns questions I had. Because
yeah, this girl is serious.
that's the level of confidence. I immediately was able to. That immediately bought my trust. I can put it that way. That
Okay.
I trust that she is as committed to this as apparently I was as well.
Yeah.
So I think from that moment, I was willing to make an exception for that, no long distance ever rule. Because again, like it wasn't like the worst long distance. We're in the same time zone. It takes a 4-hour bus ride. It's okay. Like,
Well, the 4-hour bus ride sucks. That sounds like
bus rides suck balls. Like,
yeah,
it really
that sounds
does.
like shit.
Yeah, one time I got caught in a snowstorm. That
Yeah.
turned into a fucking 8-hour shit. There was
Yeah.
no 6 hours. Sorry, 8 hours. That would be insane. 6 hours in a snowstorm.
Yeah.
Mega bus
Yeah. Sounds lame.
sucks.
Hmm.
But no, we powered through that. Her program was just a year long through there, so it wasn't too long of a long distance that we had to do. And fortunately, she was also able to find work in New York shortly after or before she graduated. So it's sort of we were able to reunite in that long distance period.
Okay,
ended.
so she went back to Rhode Island, studied for a year, and then moved to New York with you.
Correct, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then so you guys had to do long distance for a year, basically.
Basically, yeah, 2 school semesters, I guess. Not like a full calendar year, but
Yeah.
it definitely felt like one at times. But we were, we still managed. It was sort of every other weekend we were still see each other, and I think that made it a lot like so much more. It's just so much easier to stomach than having to like hop on a plane for a 5 or 6 hour, coast to coast flight kind of a deal. Like if she was in Los Angeles, I think that would be a lot more difficult to handle.
Was there like any like point during that 1 year long distance where like the times were tough and you weren't
for
sure
sure.
if you were going to make it together?
Oh, definitely. There were definitely times like that. I think both of us felt that way too at different times. At least I can speak for myself that I think I had enough trust in both her and myself to do the right thing. I think at that point I was fairly invested in the relationship. I had an idea of where this was going, and it was somewhere where I wanted to take it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was willing to put in the effort to compromise. And as an example, I actually really hate talking on the phone. It's a
Yes, me too.
yeah.
Yes.
It's I don't know if it's common actually, but I have this like weird anxiety about phone calls.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
for some
I feel the
reason, I
exact same
sound
way.
really stupid on the phone. I can't think on the phone. I can't think on the spot. If someone asks me a question that throws me off, I'll just be like stuck,
Mhm.
and then I'll get like super anxious about it. So I always had an aversion to calls, but not for Chloe. Like she wanted to talk for like long extended periods of time.
Yeah.
Like actual long phone conversation, but I don't know
Yeah.
why I just couldn't. And this was already.
She didn't want to like just listen to you sleep.
Luckily, she didn't. I think she found that quite boring, but it was just sort of a and then like I think we actually sort of had multiple sort of disagreements, conflicts about this,
Right.
and
What about the phone calls?
yeah, about the phone calls. Like she wanted me to call more, and I just
Oh.
like did not. And it was that sort of stuff that's
Yeah,
definitely trying in these kind of relationships. But at the same time, you had to figure things out. If you think it's worth it, then there's always a way to compromise, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think as long as you communicate with that partner, that's like honestly, I think that's like the key to most relationships. It's like the communication part. You gotta be able to talk to your partner about these things.
Yeah.
Right, like you're born from 2 different families, 2 different culture. Obviously, you're not gonna have the same thoughts,
You're not mind readers.
Of
right,
course.
At the end of the day.
and you cannot be identical because that's kind of boring. So you come from totally different backgrounds. Of course, you're gonna have differences.
Yeah.
But the key is like how you communicate and how you guys can move past that together and then grow from that. I think that's important. It's
Okay.
not just like compromise where one person lose and one person win.
Yeah.
It should be like a win-win, right, for everybody.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's what I think the conflict resolution should be. It shouldn't be like one person winning over the other. It's
Yep,
hey, how can
yep.
we like turn this like this lousy situation into a win-win situation where we both come out stronger together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think growth through each other is like super important.
Yeah,
in the
and I think
relationship.
that's like the kind of thing that I aspire for, like in the next relationship that I'm looking for is like
Yeah.
finding a partner that I can, be like work together
Yeah,
as
yeah.
a team
For sure.
to overcome problems. I mean, this is like a very like very small example, but I remember when I was moving out and I was like furniture shopping, and I was at the store and I saw this couple like kind of figuring out how they're gonna place XYZ furniture in their place and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like that was like something that I felt like I wanted my futures. That was a scenario that I wanted my future self to be
Yeah.
in. It's like I don't want to be the one making all the decisions in a relationship. I want to work together with my partner to figure out how we're gonna make things work.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a conversation. It's a two-way road, right? I mean,
Yeah, it
you
really
need two
is.
people to have a conversation. So it's about listening and speaking too. Like I think
Yeah.
that's equally important. Like speaking your mind, be
Yeah.
honest with yourselves,
Yeah,
and then have trust that it's going to be accepted, right, by the other person.
yeah, and I think for me, I think that was something that was hard for me to learn because, like growing up, like my parents are very traditional, right? So it's like my dad makes all the decisions, and like my mom like kind of goes with it. And then so as a kid, I've never really seen them kind of work together to. I mean, obviously they do, but
Yeah.
it's just not something that I saw that happened that I had an example to work off of.
Okay.
So I had to learn how to be able to do that with the girl that I was seeing, how to
Yep.
be able to communicate
Yep.
with her and let her know why, like, or, why this was a problem and try to understand her problem as well. So
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not easy. It's
really takes time and practice, I think.
absolutely, and it takes time to even figuring out what you are looking for and what you like and you dislike.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of how, all of our history of relationships, right? I mean, for me, I never regret any of them, despite in some of them being very painful memories. It's sort of like you always learn something from these experiences, and I think through that, it really just makes you able to. It broadens, it expands your capacity to be able to understand more about different things, and maybe things you don't understand, but you can actually try to understand.
What are some of the cultural differences that you've experienced with your wife so far?
Yeah,
Her
yeah.
being Korean,
Yep.
And-
So my wife is Korean.
and she's born and raised in Korea, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So she was in Korea, born and raised, until when she was applying for grad school at RISD. That was sort of well, I shouldn't say that. That was sort of, I guess, the first official move to the States for a long extended period of time. But she actually spent some time in Georgia before as well,
Georgia.
an
Okay.
English sort of exchange program
Yeah.
to do that. So it wasn't her first time,
Mhm.
but yeah, she was basically born and raised in Korea for most of her life.
Yeah.
Definitely, it was very different. I sometimes I feel like the word cultural shock is a bit too aggressive of a word, because it wasn't like shock per se. It was just culturally like eye opening. I want to put it that way.
Cultural difference.
Cultural difference, yes,
Mhm.
because she also comes from a more relatively conservative family, traditional again from Korean culture, and a lot of that definitely comes with a lot of special customs, a lot of ways that what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, and for example, I think from what we talked about before, right? Korean families typically have a preference for their son or daughter's significant other to also be Korean, just because they share that
Culturally.
same culture and
Yes.
cultural similarities. And I think that was definitely a hurdle I had to go through. It's
You had to convince them that you're Korean.
I had to convince them that I was like worthy,
Yeah.
and I mean on some level it's sort of I myself was born in Taiwan, but just like you, I was basically raised here in Vancouver, right? So
Yeah.
we both have a lot of that Western ideal on us as well, and especially given my parents, they're not like super traditional, so like they always sort of were quite happy with me to just run with the sort of Western independence, go with that independent thinking, try to do a bit of that idea there. So from that get point, it was sort of like I also wanted to show them that I'm willing to make an effort, right?
Mhm.
So because I understand from their perspective, I'm also a foreigner, right? I'm coming into something that they're not used to, but I want to actually show them that I want to make an effort, and I'm willing to learn. And I think at the end of the day, that was really key.
Yeah.
They know that I'm not Korean, and on some level,
And you
they-
can't really change that part of
they
yourself.
understand that, and really, to their credit, it takes a lot of effort for them to have come around to actually accept me into their family. I know it took a lot of work,
Yeah.
right? So I don't want to discount that, and that's absolutely really important to do. But I think they were able to see that I very much respected their culture, and I find it very fascinating. Honestly, it's very interesting and it's a very rich history. A lot of very cool and fun customs to do.
Yeah.
I guess some of them weren't great to do when I was jet lagged and like going through some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely during my travels there, but for the most part, I would say it's enjoyable, and I think my willingness to learn and be respectful of that really helped me. Really helped her parents to kind of see me in a way that is willing to open their arms as well and accept that into their family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there like any specific examples that stands out to you when you were trying to show her parents that you are wanting to put in the effort to show them that you were worthy?
I think that may have been I guess the most obvious example that I can think of is maybe when I was getting ready to propose actually to my wife. I know that in Korean customs, the guy should be visiting the girl's family,
Okay.
and sort of meet them face to face and request sort of very formally ask for permission that I would like to take your daughter's hand in marriage.
Okay.
Right. And I think there are some fun cultural customs that goes along with that too. Of course, you'll be having meals together. There's very sort of strict honorific hierarchies in their society. So of course there's a sign of respect for the elders.
Yep.
And with that, there's sort of like, for drinking customs, eating customs, steps you got to follow through. Right. So I did my homework too beforehand, and Chloe also taught me a lot for how to like kind of step through these things. But I knew that, again, already being not a Korean and also not in Korea, I'm not able to do that step, which is typically required as part of that, just a step in that relationship process. It's a relationship milestone.
What's that step? Right. What's that step?
Oh,
exactly?
to go to the parents' place and like formally request for permission to marry.
Oh, I see. But
So-
I mean, you can't go. You could go to the parents' place.
Well, not exactly, right? Because they're in Korea, so I
Yeah.
would have to take a flight to Korea in the middle of like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I didn't have vacation time planned for that purpose, right? We
Oh,
could be a there and back trip.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know. I just assumed that you would have done it as like a vacation sort of thing.
Unfortunately, it didn't quite line it up that way because I did go to Korea for the first time. Well, I can't remember the exact year, but of course that was like the first time in Korea, first time meeting their parents really at their home. So we went through that as well. Well, I guess there's sort of like a fun custom of typically you would I guess her dad likes to drink with his friends, and of course he wants me to drink with him as a sign of social bonding with them. And I knew ahead of time that I definitely had to hold up my own weight in drink because I don't want to.
Good luck with that.
Yeah,
Yep.
I feel like this was like a mini test of some sort, right?
I would have failed that test miserably.
I don't know, John. You're like a heavyweight tank there.
No,
I know
I'm
your
not.
past. I know
No.
your party past.
No, I'm a lightweight.
I don't think so, man. I don't know about that.
It's just an image. It's just an image.
So yeah, I remember drinking with the dad, and when I gotta pour the drink. Whenever his cup was empty, I gotta always pour it, keeping it full, facing away from him when I drink. And I just remember telling myself, absolutely, do not go shit face. Don't turn shit face. You
Right.
cannot.
Right.
So
That's-
key, Jeff. Whatever you do, hold the shit together. And that
Okay.
was like totally normal. And her dad thought I was like some amazing champion at drinking.
Yeah.
Because we finished an entire fucking like bottle of Valentino whiskey in like an hour.
Oh, okay.
Entire bottle, just the two of us.
Really?
And I was
just,
like,
just the two of you.
yeah. And then
Wow.
before that, I was already like pretty jet lagged. But for some reason, one shot of that whiskey, poop, I was like awake.
All right. So
Damn.
you just found a cure for jet lag, is
I
what
did.
you're saying.
You just take a shot of whiskey
And it's
and
Korean.
you're good to go.
And it's Korean whiskey.
Yeah, whiskey, bar, club, repeat. No, no, just so
Sex, drug, and rock and roll.
So I was lucky for that because I think that also may have demonstrated to her dad that I was willing to play ball. Like I respect that culture. I want to drink with him. I respect him, and I think that was an activity that he felt there was a bit of definitely a sense of bonding there just from the first trip, right? And unfortunately, after that, I didn't have any opportunity to go back again.
Okay.
So
how,
I
did,
guess-
how did you communicate with her dad then? Like, if it was just you two drinking?
Oof. It was well, drinking is a universal language. You don't necessarily have to speak to drink, right?
I mean, that is true. Yes.
There's a lot of cheering, and then
Yeah.
you just keep on drinking.
All right.
I mean, Chloe
just
played,
wanted
you know-
some pro tips.
Chloe played the role of the translator a lot. So it
Oh, she was there.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Oh,
This
okay.
was the first visit, right? This was
thought-
the first visit to her parents' place.
I don't know. I mean, you didn't
Yeah.
you didn't specify. You know, I thought it was just literally you and her dad, just like
Oh no, no. Like her whole family was there.
drinking a
But
bottle.
it was just me and her dad drinking. 'Cause,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
That makes a lot.
Family
of
was
sense.
there. She was there as well. So she was translating, and you know, it was a spotty conversation at best. I think we both tried our best to
Yeah.
converse, but
You're like, you like this? Yes. Okay, good.
yeah, exactly. But like, because unfortunately I didn't have a time to go back, you know, the way I had to end up asking for permission, right? Because I think that was still like a really critical part of this entire, you know, milestone to get to the marriage step.
Okay.
So I wrote a letter. That was sort of like the next best thing I could think of.
Okay.
And I wrote the letter in English first, and then I had two people help me translate it, and I rewrote the whole thing again in Korean.
Yes.
So
Um,
all of that was sort of like me trying to again like put in effort. Like I very formally write a whole like 2-page letter in full Korean. Oh my god, that was really difficult.
You know what was funny? I was just about to ask you if you asked Chloe to translate it, and I realized that would not
That
make any
would not
sense.
make no, because
that would not be a good idea.
Yeah, I wanted to keep that like somewhat a secret.
Yeah, of
too,
course.
like-
Yeah. Yeah.
And so actually this is interesting because excuse me. So because meeting the parents is such a critical part of this next step in marriage, right? The guy is supposed to go to the parents' house, the girl's parents, and then ask her parents' permission for marriage.
Okay.
That presumably means the girl is also there. So there really, actually, as I found out, there really isn't that element of surprise as there would in Western culture, where there's
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
whole
yeah.
surprise, engagement, proposal thing.
yeah.
In Korean culture, is sort of almost very much discussed and planned out ahead of time.
Yep.
Parents agree to it. Both parents from both sides actually will probably meet at some point.
Yeah.
And it's very much a sort of standardized, almost like a process that you would go through. Where I think here is very much a bit more private between the two individuals, like the guy and the girl. This is
Yep.
about them. The guy wants to surprise the girl and surprise, right? But in Korean culture, unfortunately, that surprise element is completely impossible to pull off.
Do you
because
think-
the culture dictates a process.
Yeah. Do you think
Yeah.
you prefer the process part better, or like having that surprise moment better?
So I would say after going through it, you can definitely have both.
Okay.
Well, so I should say
Because I remember you did the surprise proposal.
yeah. So-
when you two went on a trip
so
together.
this is what I mean by it can do both. So she knew that I was planning to get married. Like that part is no longer a surprise. She knew I wanted to take the next step. However, the surprise I could still have a surprise because she doesn't know when and where
Yeah.
I'm going to actually do it.
Okay.
So I think that's sort of like the compromise there. I think initially I wanted like complete surprise,
Yeah.
get it on tape, but it's sort of like, you know, end of the day, I don't really need it to be like that a certain way.
I feel like if
Right?
you're like your relationship with each other is strong enough, like at a certain point you just kind of know it's gonna happen. I feel.
Yep. I mean, every couple is very different, right?
Yeah.
And like I think with me and Chloe, we're also more of the type to kind of discuss things pretty openly. Like we wouldn't like keep something like that away
Like you wouldn't have
necessarily as a
you wouldn't
surprise.
have not discussed like marriage
exactly
first
before I actually even like
had-
went all the way through to the proposal stage. I think, yeah.
yeah.
And you know, again, honestly, to on that note, it was also sort of an expected step in Korean culture. Like asking someone's hand in marriage is not sort of treated as a very big event necessarily, like in Western culture sometimes is.
Okay.
It's very much like this is the next step in the relationship. We go through this, and then next time you meet my parents, we have lunch together, and then vice versa. And then you meet my parents, and then that's how you get the ball rolling in that sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool that you were able to kind of do both at
Yeah.
the same time.
There's definitely so yeah,
formally-
that was interesting. I just didn't know there was no surprise at that at all.
Yeah.
and people kind of accept it as well.
I'm assuming the letter that you wrote to her parents that worked out pretty
yeah,
well.
yeah, that was also that was a surprise though. I did manage to keep that from Chloe's knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah, until like after the marriage, I would say. And I
Oh,
told
really?
her-
Like you never so she never knew that you formally requested from her parents.
No, she did afterwards.
After the marriage?
After yeah. Well, I think maybe during the wedding planning stage, I might have already let it slip.
Okay.
But I did sort of keep it. I definitely kept that hush hush. Sort of like I still wanted a bit of that. You know, I was able to do something without her knowing. That was like a good thing.
Yeah,
I still
yeah.
wanted a bit of that. So.
Oh, okay. Because I guess I just assumed that like the time frame would have been like you got the like you wrote the letter to the parents, they got the okay, and then you proposed to her,
Yeah.
and then you were like, oh, by the way, don't worry, your parents okayed this or something like that. I thought that would have came up in a conversation,
I
so she wouldn't have to
probably-
worry about that, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right. I think it definitely probably came up, and I probably said it in a way that didn't like specifically mention like a letter or maybe like
Okay.
exactly how I did it.
But like you,
I mean, I
you
probably
mentioned that
said,
you did like
I got the
contact
approval, yeah, I
with your
contacted
parents.
them. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah, so I still was able to try to keep a little bit of mystique, a bit
Yeah.
of like mystery in that process.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you know, she kind of knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, even in Nice when we were talking about it, like she didn't know it was going to happen on that trip.
Yeah.
She actually had. She told me she had a little bit of a sense, but she really had no idea like it was going to happen. So I was like,
Okay.
nice, that was still good.
Yeah, it's because like we went on a trip together and
Yeah.
she thought I was gonna be around or something
Exactly,
like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
To like steal
exactly,
to steal
it's
your
perfect.
valuable vacation time. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why I'm there for you, you know.
Oh, yeah, that was a good trip.
Just to throw her off.
That was a good trip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Wow. And then like yeah, obviously you guys got married, happily
Yeah.
ever after, and
Yeah.
everything. I was very honored to be the MC at your
Yes.
wedding.
Best wedding MC, guys. If any of you guys need a wedding MC, this guy's your man.
I charge a very good price. No, I'm kidding.
Just gotta get him drunk. That's really all you need.
Yeah,
to
that's
do.
all you need. Just give me an open bar, please. Like that's all I'm asking for. But yeah, wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your
Yeah.
experiences.
Absolutely.
You know,
Thanks
like,
so much for inviting me here, John.
Yeah, I felt like I had got so much like nuggets of wisdom from this conversation. Should have just like talked to you earlier about this before I started like going around like screwing up, making mistakes.
I mean, I
Should
could
have just asked you for a pro tip. Like what was I thinking now?
I could definitely share a lot of experience with like, especially from a Korean culture perspective and stuff like that. But I'm glad I was able to you know be of help in sharing some of my experience too.
Yeah, for sure. I hope our audiences got some like, you know, like pro tips as well if they ever find themselves in a, I don't know, long distance relationship situation, or if they are in a relationship with Koreans, you know,
Yeah, just different culture,
different
stuff like
culture
that.
backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yes.
End of the day, I think it's just patience and understanding, communication. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on that note, if you have any thoughts to add to this conversation, you can send it to our email at aaboyspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. And thank you again, Jeff, for being our guest today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we will see everyone next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.